Okay, this is our final debate for our spring 2022 class. It is between Norah and Brian. So Norah, you are first speaker on the con. You can lead us off. Be sure to be loud.
Okay. Parampath negates. Resolved. All secondary schools in the United States should require all school students to wear uniforms. My sole contention is cost. Subpoint A. School uniforms increase cost. An economic team wrote in 95% of parents think these costs are unreasonable. 16% said they've had to cut back on food and other essentials to pay for uniforms. And 13% said it pushed them into debt. Here's the sample size. An economic team wrote in 19. According to responses from 1,000 parents. Here's the warrant. Richard, a researcher from the University of Ulster, wrote in 07. A systematic, in-depth investigation highlighted how school principals who influence uniform policy underestimate the cost of its provision. Quality of uniforms emerge as do parental and student concerns. Subpoint C. When school uniforms affect poor students, it leads a hand into exclusion and dropout rates, thus affecting academic achievement and self-perception. It will also put an unnecessary financial burden on poor families, which will affect their quality of living.
Okay, questions from the audience? If there's no hands up, call it random.
Adrian?
What was your author qualifications for your first sophomore?
It's an economic team, so it's a team of people who are professionals and the economy.
When was this written?
My first two were in 2019, and then my third one was in 07.
Take it random.
Okay. Can you clarify your one?
Oh, first one was one. Okay, so when principals are put in place of deciding the cost of school uniforms and manufacturing them, they're unable to make the cost of uniforms reasonable or make sense, unlike larger branded companies like Old Navy or something like that.
Call one more.
What was your subpoint B?
My subpoint B was the sample size of the survey that was in subpoint A, and my C was the warrant.
Okay, stand on up, Brian. Brian is the second speaker on the pro.
Zhang affirms, resolved, all secondary schools in the United States should require all students to wear school uniforms at school. My sole contention is academic achievement. Subpoint A, school uniforms increase academics. Robeck, student at Hamline University, wrote 2018. Research was done at school, about 400 students. One teacher noted they're more focused on their assignments. Teachers believed uniforms enhance the learning environment at the school. After the implementation of the uniforms, teachers saw increased academic motivation, improved grades among students. When uniforms are part of a school's climate, academic motivation is increased, and therefore students' grades in class and on tests are improved. Subpoint B. Here is my warrant. Brookshire, doctorate degree in administrative leadership, Walden University, wrote in 2016. Uniforms help students focus more on the academics because everyone looks alike. Subpoint C. Here's my impact. Regier, winner of 2011 Applied Science and Technology Scholarship, wrote in 2018. Academic success is important because adults with high levels of education have more employment opportunities than those with less education and earn higher salaries.
Okay, that is time. Questions from the audience? Call.
Prada?
So your first card was written by students, so how do we know that they're qualified enough for your card?
They actually analyzed a research done by someone else. Benjamin?
What was the qualification for that one?
Doctorate degree in administrative leadership, Walden University. Hi.
What were the qualifications for that someone else?
I do not know. Shakir?
How can we trust your research if you don't know?
Well, because the teachers, because it doesn't really matter who it is. Like if you go to a school and ask the teachers, you're basically not questioning the person who is doing the research. You're questioning the teachers. Yoshiko?
Was your research done at just one school?
Yes. Sophie?
What if this one school was just different from the others? Like it doesn't show how the school in the US.
Yes, but this is just what because my work because this is just sort of just proving my work because the teacher saw the academic motivation and improved grades in the enhanced learning environment. environment. And like my award is just spur versus idea.
Okay,
Balance that out.
let's get on up. Rebuttal time.
Should I start now? Okay. Answer 2. School uniforms increase academic achievement. No link. School uniforms have no effect on academic achievement. Yeah, an author from the University of New York wrote in 09. Through the use of a value-added functional form with the use of multiple datasets, the results do not suggest any significant association between school uniform policies and achievement. Uniforms are not the solution to all of America's education race. An education analyst from Columbia University wrote in 19. This paper analyzes a survey on students. The findings reveal that not only does the cost of school uniforms matter, but also poor students have feelings of exclusion when the majority of students wear uniforms. Such policies are more likely to affect poor students' negative perceptions of themselves and play a strong role into dropout rates. The cost of uniforms is more important because without financial stability, students will not have the time or effort to put into their grades, and it also affects their self-perception and yeah. You should value my evidence over his evidence because his evidence only gives teachers' opinions, which could be biased. We don't know. Data has less of a likely chance of being biased, and even the data that he claims to have is only taken on 400 students, while mine is taken on 1,000 parents, which is way more, which means that my data is more reliable. Also,
Okay, questions from the audience. Call.
You said that yours is 1,000 parents, but do parents really know how their children feel about the uniforms?
So it's cost, and I would say that parents know more about cost, because, they're paying.
Wait, why should we trust your data if your opponent is 7 and 9 years old? Why should we trust your data if yours is written in 2009 and your opponent is written in 2006 and 2008?
Ours is it's 2019. Oh, for my rebuttal?
Yeah.
For my rebuttal, one is written in 2019, and the other is 2009, and his was written in 2018, but we should still be able to trust it because it has like a value-added form which will like give more people, which means that the evidence is more reliable.
You were saying that the audience should trust your evidence over Brian's because his data might be biased. But why would teachers be biased about uniforms because they don't have anything against uniforms and uniforms wouldn't affect their career? So why would they be biased?
Well, I'm saying that like, oh, the interviewer is like, oh, we'll give you a certain amount of money to say this. Like, bias. It's like, you can't bias numbers as easily.
How do you know the parents aren't biased?
Well, it would make sense if like a certain parent was biased or like one parent opinion was biased, but this is a response from 1,000 parents. It's highly unlikely that all 1,000 parents are biased.
Okay, stand on up.
AT, uniforms increase financial costs. 1. Main turn, school uniforms decrease financial costs. Kraft, University of Wisconsin staff, in 2003. There are many retail stores selling uniforms at a very reasonable cost. Stores have increased the number of styles they sell to benefit from students wanting style in their uniforms. The Target store in Chicago offers school uniforms from a $5 polo shirt to a $20 sweater. Compared to $150 pair of tennis shoes or a $100 sweater, the cost of school uniforms appears very reasonable. 2. Academic achievement outweighs financial costs because while money is important, in the long term, academic achievement is what keeps you alive. If someone's academics aren't good, they won't be successful in the future, where they may fall into poverty without the aid of their parents financially. My card is better than my opponent's card because while my opponent's card is talking about analyzing surveys, they don't have any specific number. I mean, when they talk about 1,000 parents, the parents do say that they are pushed to their limits financially. However, they do not say how much money is being spent. Also, my opponent talks about bias in her rebuttal. However, as someone has pointed out, her parents can be biased. The parents in her study can be biased as well. In addition, For parents, they don't have any specific numbers on how much money they are losing, while my card here has specific numbers on how much money stuff might cost.
Okay, questions from the audience?
Here.
How about like the people who like can't like access like
Well, the retail stores are really widespread. Shada?
You said that academic achievement always costs because academic achievement is more important for your entire life. But like, how will you be able to go to school if you don't have the financial resources to?
Well, there's scholarships. TUC?
Scholarships are available to most elementary schools, so
Why do elementary schools matter?
because
Oh, well, secondary
like
schools.
secondary and middle schools, most schools don't have scholarships. Like even at the school, don't have scholarships.
Right, but as my rebuttal says, like, they're also, the uniforms are cheap, so.
That's the
Rachel?
You say that your opponent doesn't have the numbers on how much money like they had spent, but how do you why does it really matter how much money? All you know is that it pushed them into debt because people have different boundaries for their financial statuses.
Right, but like, they can't really quantify it because, 1,000 because while mine doesn't have a sample size, it also like really spreads infinitely because it talks about a specific store. And like the specific store, like Targets, like they're really widespread. Like, you know, there's so many Targets, so like you can really get that cheap clothing anywhere.
Okay, stand on up. Last speech.
I win this because my warning about why cost is more important is way more logical than his. First, mine says that 95% of parents think these costs are unreasonable, and I have more reliable data from 1,000 participants. So, what this means is that since my data is more reliable and has a strong warrant that he hasn't rebutted, it is better than his data, which is less reliable because it's only from a teacher's opinion. He says that mine is bad because parents can be biased, but I highly doubt that all 1,000 parents are going to be biased. He also says his warrant is also very weak because he says that uniforms help students focus on academics because everyone looks alike, but there's always going to be distractions in school, whether it's hair color or drama or people's personalities. Removing uniforms just doesn't make sense. Also, I outweigh on magnitude. They say that that academic achievement can help you in the future, and I agree, but this is way on the future, so we outweigh on timeline. I outweigh on timeline because cost affects you now. If you can't afford to pay for food or are pushed into debt, you can't even worry about thinking about getting into really good colleges because you can't even afford to put food on the table. School uniforms also affect academic achievement. The cost of school uniforms also affects academic achievement. Now moving on to their case. So they say that school uniforms increase academic achievement, but I already have a really good form that is like value added and a functional form with multiple data sets that proves that it has no effect. Well, there's only one teacher's opinion. And
Okay, that is time. Brian, you're up.
I win this debate because I have better impact. On my case, extended rubric 18, students were more focused and had better test grades. In Brookshire 16 writes that since students are not distracted by different clothing, they are more focused. And according to year 18, better academics increases the chance of getting a job with a better salary, and in the future, students who do not have the support of their parents financially will inevitably fall into poverty without a job. In my opponent's rebuttal, they compared their constructive card to my constructive card, but I can ignore that because her constructive card does not directly counter my constructive card, so it doesn't really matter. In addition, my opponent's first card in her rebuttal speaks in very general terms, saying no significant difference. That is not clear at all, so I can ignore that. Now, onto their case. My rebuttal card has specific monetary numbers, while my opponent's case only has how many parents think the uniforms are too expensive. In addition, my opponent's ward is from Northern Ireland, so I couldn't ignore that. That just leaves my opponent's data, but this is just strictly data. If we don't know why it happens, this is just 1,000 parents. But think about how many parents there are in the U.S. There's so many. These 1,000 parents do not compare to the amount of parents in the U.S. And since there's no really true warrant to her argument, I can ignore her argument. And also back to her rebuttal, she also talked about in general. She also talked about the negative perceptions, but she never talked about later on. She never talked about that again, so I can ignore that. And also, she says that my cards only have one teacher's opinion. Well, my card clearly stated that there are multiple teachers in the analysis. Therefore, I should win this debate.
Awesome! Good debate, everyone.